As Heracles journeyed across Greece, he thought about what his friend Theseus had told him. You will never be free of the past until you have worked away your guilt and mastered your temper and your great strength. Go ask Apollo, the god of wisdom and truth, how to do these things. And remember always, you have a friend who believes in you. Heracles traveled up into the mountains until he reached Delphi, where there was a famous temple built to honor the god Apollo. In a cave behind this temple sat a priestess. When someone asked her a question, she would go into a trance as if she were asleep, and Apollo would speak through her. The words would come from her mouth with her voice, but the Greeks believed they were really Apollo's words. Heracles asked for Apollo's guidance or advice, and the answer came back, "Go to King Eurystheus and do as he commands." Thus began perhaps the most famous of Heracles' many adventures. King Eurystheus sent the hero out to perform the most difficult tasks he could think of, 12 in all, and these daring deeds became known as the labors of Heracles. A labor is a job or a task, so Heracles has 12 jobs to do. The first of these labors that King Eurystheus commanded Heracles to complete involved a large and dangerous animal. King Eurystheus was a small man, and he paced nervously back and forth in front of his throne as he spoke to the huge Heracles, who stood listening. In another part of Greece, known as Nemea, the king began, there lives a dangerous lion. You, Heracles, shall subdue the lion so he won't ever hurt anyone. I am told that the lion's hide or skin is magical. No material known to man, such as metal, stone, or wood, can cut that lion's skin. You will have to think of another way to stop it. Bowing, Heracles said, I do not know how I can do this, but I will try. However, as he left the throne room, he thought, perhaps this story is not accurate. Perhaps the hunters simply have not gotten close enough to shoot their arrows at the lion, but I will bring my own bow and arrows as well as my heavy stone club. Heracles journeyed to Nemea and at last found the fierce animal out in the forest, sleeping in the midday heat. Heracles moved forward until he had a clear view of the beast. Then the hero drew an arrow from his quiver and set the end to the string of his bow. Drawing back the string, he took careful aim and then let go, but the arrow simply bounced right off the lion. Its hide was indeed magical. The lion was unhurt, but it still felt the blow. It awoke and leapt to its feet, roaring with rage, and then charged Heracles. Throwing down his bow and arrows, the hero stood waiting, his heavy stone club in his hand. When the lion leapt at him, Heracles simply stepped to the side and let the lion sail right past him. Then Heracles struck with his club, which would have been powerful enough to knock down an elephant, but the Nemean lion, protected by its magical hide, did not suffer terribly from the impact. It only sank to the ground for a moment, stunned. The club, however, had shattered into 100 pieces. Knowing that in a moment the large cat would leap to the attack again, Heracles turned and leaped upon the lion's back. Then Heracles reached forward and grabbed the lion's front paws so that it could not turn them against Heracles. The furious beast rolled on its back on the ground and tried to shake him off, but Heracles' strength was too much, and he was able to subdue the lion. Catching his breath, Heracles thought, the report was true. The lion's hide protected it from my club and my arrows. If I could wear it, it would give me protection against swords and arrows. How can I possibly do this? After trying many ways to get the hide off the lion, Heracles had a brilliant idea. He lifted one of the lion's paws from the ground and used the lion's own claws to cut the hide. So that is how Heracles slew the Nemean lion and succeeded in completing the first of his 12 labors for King Eurystheus. King Eurystheus smiled at the large man in the lion's skin who stood before his throne. Heracles, said the king, I have another labor for you to attempt or try. I want you to bring me 3 of the golden apples of the Hesperides. This startled even Heracles. But your majesty, those 3 magical sisters live beyond any land to which humans have ever traveled. According to stories, in the middle of their garden is a tree from which there grows apples of real gold. The sisters keep the location secret, for otherwise people would constantly trample the place just to get the gold. How am I to bring you these apples if no one even knows where they are or if they even exist? The king shrugged. If it were easy, Heracles, I would not need you. Now go. So Heracles, who had traveled throughout the known world, now set sail for the unknown world. He sailed west, and after searching in vain, or without seeing any results, for several weeks, he thought, there must be a better way to find the Hesperides. Suddenly he grinned. Wait a moment. I cannot find them myself, but I know where to find someone who might be able to help. You see, the Hesperides were the daughters of the biggest and strongest of all the giants, Atlas. The giants used to rule the world before Zeus became king of the gods. After Zeus became king, he punished Atlas for fighting against him by having him stand and hold the entire sky on his massive shoulders so that it would not fall down upon the earth. Heracles journeyed until he found a range of enormous mountains. In the middle of them stood Atlas, bent beneath the weight of the sky. Heracles shouted, "Hello, Atlas!" Atlas squinted downward, calling in a deep voice, "Who is there?" "It is I, Heracles. I have come to ask a favor." Then Heracles explained his mission to clear his reputation, or the people's opinion of him, as a man of bad temper, ending with his request, "I hoped you might direct me to your daughters and their garden." Atlas replied, "I would gladly do so, but my daughters made me promise never to tell anyone where it is. I cannot break a promise, not even for you, Heracles. I would get you the apples myself, but I dare not set down the sky." Thinking for a moment, Heracles said, "I am nowhere near your size, Atlas, but you know I'm strong. Perhaps I can hold the sky while you go and get the 3 apples I need." Atlas stood unmoving for so long that now even his ideas moved slowly. Finally, he agreed, warning, "Brace yourself, Heracles. Even you have never held a weight such as this one." Slowly, the giant lowered himself to his knees and transferred onto Heracles' shoulders the weight of the entire sky and everything in it. Even Heracles, strong as he was, staggered a bit. Then he found his balance and said, "I have it now. Hurry back, Atlas." The giant strode away with mile-long steps. For a long time, Heracles stood bent beneath that immeasurable load. At last, Atlas returned and showed Heracles the golden apples. But to Heracles' horror, Atlas told him, "I have held the sky almost from the beginning of time, and until today I could never set it down. Now I know someone else is strong enough to take over the job. I will take the apples to your king." Heracles did not like this idea at all. Knowing how slowly Atlas thought, however, the hero answered, "I did not know I would be holding the sky for so long a time, Atlas, so I was not careful enough when I took it from you. There seems to be a planet rubbing against the back of my neck, and it's starting to hurt. I'm afraid I might drop the sky. Before you go, please get the blanket from my pack over there and slip it between my neck and that planet." Atlas tried, but his hands were so large that he could not get the blanket out of the pack, so Heracles suggested, "Take back the sky long enough for me to set the blanket in place." He handed the load back to the giant. As soon as Atlas held the sky once more, Heracles said, "I'm sorry, Atlas, but Zeus chose you to hold the sky. Thank you for bringing me the apples." Atlas sighed, realizing Heracles had turned his own trick back against him. I suppose it is only fair. Well, Heracles, come back and visit old Atlas again sometime. So Heracles took the apple to the king, completing another labor, and Atlas never again sat down the sky. Heracles completed all 12 of his labors after defeating the Nemean lion and retrieving the golden apples. Once he did, he was free to leave the service of King Eurystheus. He once again traveled all over Greece, completing many heroic deeds, but this time he was always thanked for them.